Today is all about making and applying underglaze transfers that we make ourselves with this beautiful screen print that we did 2 weeks ago, and I really hope I can fit it all in one video. You and me, babe. You and me, babe. It's just nothing else like you. We're ready to go. Here I have my finished dry stencil. The mechanics of this process are so self-explanatory that I really don't feel the need to discuss them. However, there are a few things you might like to know. For example, you can use a newsprint like I'm using here, or you can use tissue paper. The same type of tissue paper that you wrap presents with will give you a very similar transfer to one that's printed on rice paper. With this newsprint, however, the sturdiness of the paper will allow me to put several layers of color over the print, and then we can transfer both the color and the print image to the final piece. You can put the underglaze onto the screen or onto the squeegee. I did both here, thinking that if I loaded the squeegee rather than the screen, I might have more control over what bled off the side. That was not the case. However, I can easily remedy that in the future by adding some tape to the edges of the screen. Now let's talk about underglaze viscosity. I use Speedball underglazes, and they generally come pretty thick. Other brands may need to be dried out and thickened. I have no experience with that, but what I do know is that the underglaze should sit up in a pile like you have seen thus far. If it is thicker, you may have to go over it a few times and push the underglaze through the screen. And if it is thinner, you may get a bleed. And this, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the most surprising thing that I figured out by doing these transfers. Your squeegee matters. It matters a lot. I tried doing this with a red rib, and, well, you can see the results. It didn't matter what I did. As long as I was using a red rib, it bled all over the place. I have no idea why. Makes absolutely no sense to me, but as soon as I ordered a screen printing squeegee, all the planets aligned and everything started working as it should. So, I did some experimenting, and really what you need is something that is hard. The big red squeegee you've seen me using, I wouldn't even call it a squeegee. It's more like a huge credit card. I tried a plastic bench scraper, and that worked as well. But a red rib was a disaster that cost me all kinds of time and heartache. Okay, there comes a point where these get spent and clogged up, and they're just not gonna make any more pretty prints unless you wash them out. But once you wash them out, they kind of take a while to dry. So one thing that I have found that works quite well is to put them on a piece of scrap and run your squeegee over it without using any paint. All directions, and just try and kind of get that paint out of the screen itself. And it'll paint this little shadow image. And then you can make a couple more prints. But again, once it gets to that point, your life is limited. I've gotten a whole bunch of these printed, and I'm very proud of myself. Now for the color. Just paint inside the outside lines. You can color over the blacks in the center of the design, and in most cases that will still transfer onto the plate. But no matter what, expect to have to make some touch-ups after the transfer. I caution you against coloring all of them at one time. Color a few and see if you like how they transfer. Finally, we apply these transfers to a fresh plate even before we take it off the bat. So I have 7 of these painted underglaze transfers, and I will be making 7 plates from Trinity Ceramic white stoneware. Wah! Now, I am going to cut this out so that I don't have extra stuff to deal with as I'm placing this onto my plate. I'm going to add slip to the center of my plate. Have some air bubbles in there, but I'm just going to smear that out. I'll let all those air bubbles pop.
Use a paintbrush for the slip. Air bubbles in this process are not good, and these didn't want to pop. I was taught to spray the newsprint from the outside, but for this video, I used several different methods, including dunking one in water and putting one on dry, just so that I could show you the results. Then carefully lay down the transfer, doing your best not to trap any air. Then, ever so gently, sponge up any remaining slip. Make sure that the transfer is well seated and unmoving. Now, you are going to leave this overnight. I know it's tempting, but every time that I have pulled it off before it was ready, I have regretted it. Give the water time to join the underglaze to the plate.
Now, even drying obviously is key so that they don't bow. And then it's gonna be beautiful. Now I gotta wedge more clay.
After applying the transfer, but before removing the paper, you must address the bottom of the plate. So, as you see me adding this foot, the transfer is still on the underside of the plate, but the middle of the plate is being supported by a chuck. If the paper were not still on the plate, the image would be damaged.
And now, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show. When it's a good one. So pretty. This one, I gave it an extra little rub down after it had kind of settled over and the plate had gotten a little firmer. Looks good. It does not look like the rub down made a hill of beans difference. But that's okay. I'm happy with the plate. So I'll go in and I'll touch up the details on this one and he'll be good to go. Other than that, very, very happy with that. This one I put on dry. So the slip down, the throwing slip down, and then I did not squirt the underglaze transfer with water before I put it down. That is totally acceptable. I don't see any difference in that and the last one. What I am noticing And on these and the ones that I've done before is that the green does not want to transfer the black on top of it. So there's that. But you look beautiful. So I have no complaints. A few touch-ups, it'll be ready to go. This one moved when I placed it down. It moved. Oh man, those blues really did transfer well. Yay! He doesn't seem to have any jostling issues. Even the blacks on the greens transferred on that one. Not very well, but better than a lot of the other ones. Oh, you're so pretty! This is the one that I am the most interested in seeing, because this is the one where I put the slip on the back of the piece of paper rather than on the actual wear on the plate. So these are air bubbles here in the green, but I am getting a better transfer with the black over the green. Other than that, where the air bubbles were, the entire design is gone. Whereas in the others, where the air bubbles were, it would just kind of not have the color on it. But in this one, it has very real breaks where there's nothing. I just love these designs. Last one for today. Green got a little crazy, but that's okay. I would be interested to know, this is leaf green from Speedball. I wouldn't wonder if I used a different color from Speedball or if I used a different manufacturer's green, if it wouldn't let go of the black like that. Don't get me wrong, it's really not that big of a deal if I'm gonna have to touch these up anyway. Once the design is on there, it's really not a big deal. Oh my goodness, they're so pretty. All touched up and ready to go. And there is only one thing left to do. Splatter paint them! With the splatter, without the splatter. I love the splatter. And the fired plates. Both of them have the splatter on it. This is B-Mix. This is kind of a Franken-Clay. But the splatter looks pretty good, really good. It kind of gives the clay, the ornaments, a little environment to be in. So, like it. Don't ask me what kind of brush to use. I'm too new with this. But I'm gonna use blue frost and white on these, and it will kind of look like snow.
And as with everything else in this video, I learned some things here as well. The closer your brush is to the plate, the more directional the splatter will be. If you want even dots, hold your brush high. Then, instead of trying to splatter into the blank places, just get a paintbrush and dot the blank places. Finally, more is not always better. Sometimes it's just more. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we did it! We made, colored, and applied homemade underglaze transfers, and we did it all in one video. Woohoo!
Oh, it doesn't seem like it's time for Christmas yet. These are so fun. And now we have some seriously over-splatter painted plates. Don't know till you know.
So after you hit that like button, head on over to callistemily.com, get on the email list, or find us on social media so you can be one of the first to know when these finally are finished. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for coming.